The movie kicks off with a krat, which is an odd structure made from animal bones and scraps. In that dense Estonian forest, peasants use these krats for their household chores. That forest holds many anomalies associated with the ghosts, wolves, and souls of the departed ones. A krat tries to eliminate a peasant's cow mercilessly. It angers the owner, who later destroys that krat. These proto-robotic structures sometimes get messy, as the souls of departed ones keep them alive. If they do not have any work to do, they start doing terrible things. These peasants are going through a miserable life of hunger and cold. They eat the bark of trees, pigs, and rotten meat to sate their hunger. They go to any extent, even if it includes stealing or seeking help from the devil. This forest has a strange custom, where the souls of departed ones arise on specific days in November. These souls feel it hospitable to visit their children's homes and give them precious things. Such a box of precious things is given to Lena by the souls of her forefathers. Lena is the daughter of a peasant in the same forest. The families that live in that forest collectively make a small village. This village also has a manor belonging to the Germans. An old baroness in that manor has an attending nurse, who is notorious for stealing valuable things. That baroness is unaware of her thievery, because she is bedridden. Lena is keen on these valuable, and usually trades with that nurse. For a silk scarf, she gives a precious silver ring to her. All she wants is to buy a dress, for which the nurse is demanding her silver brooch. This makes Lena sorrowful. That silver brooch is very dear to her, and her heart is not allowing her to give it away. Lena usually visits that burial ground to meet her mother and grandmother. One night, she visits that place and sees her mother. All those souls are wearing clean white gowns and doing their prayers. Lena's father used to call them beasts. According to him, they are not alive nor dead. A boy from the village named Hans points out Lena to her mother. Lena likes that boy. He tells her that he is looking for his mother, who is buried there. Her father sees the rock souls there and takes them to his home. The rocks are the forefathers of this peasant family. Lena does not seem interested in the rocks and waits for her mother's soul instead. The rocks ask Lena about the precious things they have given to her during their last visit. Everything is there, except that silver ring, which Lena sold out for that silk scarf. Upon being asked by her father, she confuses him by directing his suspicion on a krat. Her father becomes furious and decides to tear the krat who did it into pieces. Lena's father does not like her mother and never invites her soul to dinner. Lena has a special bond with her mother, and she usually takes bread from her home to feed her soul. In that short interaction, she asks her mother how she managed to survive with her father. She also tells her mother that she likes someone, and he is very good to her. Her mother smiles upon hearing this and encourages her. After that, her divine soul disappears. The boy whom Lena likes, Hans, has a special bonding with a wolf. He is the divine wolf, and folks in that village usually pray to him or use him as a messenger for their prayers. They believe that wolf takes their prayers toward the most divine creature of the universe. Hans likes to sit in front of that manor, just staring and observing it. He keeps on staring at that baroness room, as his heart asks him to do so. When rocks are returning to their ground, an old man and woman block their way by asking them ridiculous questions. The old woman asks them about their pleasureful life in the boneyard. She also complains that they do not even have to struggle for acquiring bread. She explains her desire to share a walk with them and pluck flowers from their graves. This makes the rocks furious, and they remind her that the flowers that grow in November are special. November in this movie stands for barrenness and grim. This movie shows the combined beliefs of Christians and pagan. The peasants are pagans, but they regularly go to the manor to attain bread in the name of Christ. While attending such an occasion, Hans, the lover of Lena, sees a German girl there. He falls for her the moment he takes a glance at her. That makes Lena feel jealous. The look Hans gives the girl makes Lena sad. A krat comes to Hans' house and asks him to grant him some work. He tells him that his master did not give him work, so he eliminated him. Hans mocks him by arguing that his master must have been a shepherd boy instead of a grown man because krats are not strong enough to put a man down. Meanwhile, Lena's father comes to their house and asks him for currants to buy a soul from the caretaker of the boneyard. He explains that he is done with the structure and just wants some treasure to buy a soul. Hans' father grants him the currants. He goes to the boneyard, taking currants with him, and asks the caretaker about buying a soul. That caretaker is a very creepy fellow. When he tries to grant him a soul, something terrible happens to him. Lena's father comes back home without a soul for their krat. While her father is doing all this, Lena indulges herself in a very strange and mythical prayer. In her prayer, she goes into the depth of that forest while nude and asks for her love. Her prayer includes rolling motions of her body, which the wolf mysteriously mirrors. While Lena thirsts for love, the German girl gets intimate with Hans. The next day, Lena gets an engagement proposal. Lena is the most beautiful girl all over the village, and an old peasant wants to marry her. Lena does not like him, but her father has already made an agreement with him. That old peasant always tries to please Lena, but he is too old and ugly for her. She clearly says no to his face, which makes him simultaneously furious and nervous. Hans wanders around the manor, searching for his lover. He sees one of their servants stealing something. He goes inside to confront him, and the servant reveals his grudge against him. He believes that this Estonian land belongs to them, and not to the Germans who have taken this land unjustly. In his explanation, he states that everything here belongs to them, even their undergarments, which he is trying to steal. He offers them to Hans, and asks him to meet him at night beside the kitchen door. At night, when Hans goes to visit the manor, he finds that the German master is busy playing his piano and does not even notice them. The servant takes Hans to the girl's room. She looks very pretty, sleeping on her bed in a white gown. She has a habit of walking during sleep. This habit arises that night, and she sleepwalks to the roof. Just as she is about to fall, Hans saves her from behind. Her father praises Hans and allows him to have a meal with them. Hans falls even harder for that girl and her family. He wants to change himself and take himself out of hunger and poverty to lead a stable and wealthy life. Inspired, he goes back to his village and tries to remove the stump and litter from there. This angers the people of his village. Who is he to order them? Hans gets into a hustle with his people, and after this failed attempt, he goes back to the manor. During Lena's second prayer, she finds a woman who also suffered from heartbreak. That woman loved someone, but he did not get her love back. She gives an idea to Lena to eradicate that German girl. Lena is convinced and goes to the manor to complete the task. She is carrying an arrow and arrives there. She has her best chance to do said task when the girl begins sleepwalking, but Lena saves the girl instead of eradicating her. When that woman asks her for the reason, Lena explains herself. Eradicating the girl would make Hans sad, which is not what she wants. Meanwhile, a plague has made its way to the village. The villagers are afraid and try to think of ideas to rescue themselves. One of them proposes to take off their pants and wear them on their heads. By doing so, the plague will think of them as abnormal and will not dare to touch them. Their leader asks them to find anything unusual in the forest, which could be causing the plague. A woman finds a button that seems unusual to her. That button is the cause of that plague. It is proven when a peasant bites it and is converted into a pig. The leader begs that cursed pig to spare Lena and Hans from the plague. It is compulsory to carry on their race. Lena becomes happy upon hearing this, but Hans is not agreeing to it. Instead of marrying her, he eliminates that pig to stop the plague. This works, and the plague is gone forever. Villagers are dancing and cheering. Hans is now making his crat with snow. He just wants a soul to replenish it. For this purpose, he goes to the boneyard, where the caretaker gives him a soul from Hans' blood. The crat of Hans talks very elegantly and asks him for any favor he can do. Hans tells him about his love and how he wants Krat to do something about it. Krat tells him a love story of the place where they are standing. According to the story, everyone does not always get love, but mourning over a lost one is more beautiful. Mourning gives humanity inspiration for poetry and singing. Hans is very happy that his Krat has interesting stories to tell. On the other hand, Lena's father promises the peasant for Lena. He takes that peasant to his daughter and tells her that he is a very good man. Lena resists, but her father has made his decision. His heart pounds when he sees that the peasant is forcing her. It shakes him up, and he asks that man to stay away from his daughter. Her father promises her that if she manages to take that dress from the greedy nurse, then he can do something for her. Upon hearing this, she rushes into her room for that silver brooch. Her father sees her and rebukes her for selling their valuable things. This gets them into a hustle, and she makes her way for Hans while leaving her father in an unconscious state. Wearing a precious black gown, Lena looks just like that German girl. She is also wearing a veil. That confuses Hans about her identity. He thinks Lena is the German girl, and they get intimate. Meanwhile, the German girl passes away for unknown reasons. Lena thinks that the matter is settled. Despite all this, the caretaker of the boneyard takes Hans' life. He has given a soul to his Krat without taking one, and now is the time to pay for that. The villagers pray to the Christian god instead of theirs. During the burial, Lena takes his corpse into a lake and kisses him deeply. Her soul departs from this realm. The old woman takes her body out of the water and gives it a respectable burial.